This is K-Drama Cycle, where emotions meet reality and where stories of love, pain, and support remind us that even stars have fragile hearts. Tonight's story takes us to one of the most unforgettable moments in recent television history, a night when tears, friendship, and love took center stage. It's the story of how Freen, with pure instinct and care, rushed to comfort Becky during an unexpected emotional breakdown that left fans around the world in shock. This is not a scripted scene, not a performance, but a real moment that showed the power of human connection in the spotlight. The event was supposed to be a celebration, a live television special featuring Freen and Becky, one of the most beloved pairs in the entertainment world. They were invited to perform, to laugh, and to share stories about their journey. The atmosphere was bright. Cameras flashed, fans cheered, and both stars walked in holding hands, smiling as they always do. But as the program went on, something began to change. Becky's smile, usually radiant and full of confidence, began to fade. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke about the challenges of fame, the long hours, the sleepless nights, and the pressure to stay strong for everyone watching. The crowd noticed. Her eyes glistened under the lights, and before anyone could react, a single tear rolled down her cheek. The studio went silent. Freen, sitting beside her, immediately reached out. No hesitation, no words, just action. She placed her arm gently around Becky's shoulder, whispering something the microphones couldn't catch. Becky tried to continue speaking, but her voice broke completely. She covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed by emotion. And in that instant, Freen did what no script could capture. She turned her chair toward Becky, pulled her close, and held her in a long, reassuring embrace. The crowd erupted, not in noise, but in emotion. Fans watching live felt tears in their eyes. It was real, raw, and painfully beautiful. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the moment flooded every platform. Hashtags like #FreenProtectsBecky and #BeckyStayStrong began trending globally. Fans couldn't stop talking about how natural, how genuine, and how loving Freen's reaction had been. Some fans said it was like watching one soul comfort another. Others called it proof that their bond runs far deeper than friendship or showmanship, that it's built on years of trust, understanding, and silent care. After the broadcast ended, reporters tried to approach Becky backstage, but Freen quietly asked for space. She stayed by Becky's side, guiding her away from the cameras. Witnesses said she never left her for a second, not even when staff offered water or tissues. She didn't need to speak, one crew member said later. You could see the emotion in Freen's eyes. It was like she felt every tear Becky shed. Later that evening, both stars left the studio together, hand in hand, their heads bowed slightly as fans shouted messages of support from the sidelines. The next morning, the internet was flooded with messages. Fans around the world shared words of love and encouragement. Freen's reaction showed what true friendship looks like. Becky doesn't have to be perfect. She just has to be human. Those were the sentiments filling timelines everywhere. Freen remained silent for almost a full day after the incident, letting Becky take the time she needed. But when she finally spoke, her message was short, heartfelt, and powerful. She wrote, "Sometimes words aren't needed. You just hold the person you love and remind them they're not alone." That one sentence broke the internet all over again. Becky later shared her side, explaining that she had been struggling silently for weeks. The weight of performing, the endless schedules, and the pressure to meet everyone's expectations had finally caught up with her. She admitted, "I didn't want to cry. Not there, not in front of everyone. But at that moment, Freen was there before I even knew I needed her. She just knew." Her words confirmed what fans had always believed, that their bond wasn't just built on screen chemistry or partnership, but on deep, unconditional care. Behind the cameras, Freen and Becky have always shared a quiet understanding. Friends close to them have spoken about how they constantly support each other, checking in during long shoots, bringing food to each other's trailers, even leaving small notes of encouragement before big performances. And that night, during Becky's live breakdown, all of that friendship, all of those years of love and mutual respect, became visible in one unforgettable moment. In the days that followed, Becky took a brief break from public appearances. Freen covered some schedules alone, always updating fans with small, reassuring messages like, she's resting, she's healing, she'll smile again soon. When Becky finally returned to the stage a few weeks later, it was for a fan meeting, and, of course, Freen was there too. The moment Becky appeared, smiling shyly at the crowd, fans stood up cheering. And there was Freen, clapping the loudest, her eyes shining with pride. When Becky took the microphone, her first words were simple. I cried once when I felt weak. But today, I stand here because someone reminded me that love is stronger than pain. She turned to Freen, smiled, and said softly, "Thank you for catching me when I fell." The entire hall erupted in applause. From that day on, fans began calling them the unbreakable pair. Not because they never faced hardship, but because they faced it together. Even in interviews afterward, Freen and Becky often spoke about how the incident changed their relationship. Freen admitted, "That moment reminded me that fame fades, lights go out, but people, the ones who truly care, stay." Becky responded with a smile, "She's my calm, my home." Months later, when the duo appeared again on television, there was an undeniable new warmth between them. Their glances, their laughter, their natural ease, it all spoke of two people who had been through something real and come out stronger. Every performance since then carried a deeper emotion. Fans noticed the way Freen's hand would instinctively find Becky's during intense moments, or how Becky would glance toward Freen before answering difficult questions. It wasn't rehearsed, it was trust. Industry insiders later revealed that several producers reached out to both of them to recreate that live moment in scripted shows, but they both declined. Freen reportedly said, "Some things are too honest to act." Becky agreed, adding, "That was real life, and real life doesn't need retakes." Their decision only made fans respect them more. They weren't chasing clout or sympathy, they were showing raw humanity in an industry often built on perfection. As time went on, that single live TV moment became one of the most talked about scenes in fandom history. It reminded people that behind the glitz, the makeup, and the smiles, there are hearts that feel deeply, and that true friendship, when tested, always shines through. Even now, months after the incident, fans continue to replay the clip online. Some say they watch it to remind themselves that kindness still exists in the spotlight. Others say it's because they've never seen love expressed so purely, without words, without pretense, just presence. In the end, that night wasn't about a breakdown or a scandal. It was about strength found in vulnerability and about one person who didn't hesitate to step forward when someone she loved fell apart. And maybe that's why Freen and Becky's story resonates so deeply. It's not just about fame or fan culture or celebrity life. It's about compassion. About choosing to show up when it matters most. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be there. No lights, no script, no applause. Just there. The days that followed that emotional night marked a quiet but powerful turning point in Freen and Becky's journey. What began as a heartbreaking Live TB breakdown had now become a story of healing, growth, and deeper connection, not just between the two stars, but between them and millions of people who had seen themselves in that moment of vulnerability. At first, both stars chose silence. No official statements. No press interviews. Only a few subtle posts, a simple photo of two clasped hands, captioned "one step at a time." Fans immediately knew what it meant. It was Freen and Becky's way of saying, "We're okay. We're still here. We're walking through this together." But behind the silence, there was a lot happening. Becky had taken time away from public appearances, focusing on self-care and private reflection. She spent days away from the noise of the city, surrounded by nature, friends, and the quiet comfort of being unseen. And throughout that time, one constant remained, Freen. According to those close to them, Freen checked in every single day, even when she was across town filming. Late-night calls, short text messages, and early morning visits became her way of saying, "You're not alone." Friends revealed that Becky once told them, "It's strange. When I feel like falling apart, she always senses it before I even speak." That instinctive care became the backbone of their friendship, one that was no longer just about showbiz partnership, but about two people choosing each other through the highs and the lows. And while fans had always admired their chemistry on screen, It was this unseen bond behind the scenes that made people fall even deeper in love with their story. As Becky slowly returned to the public eye, her first official appearance was at a charity event, not a glamorous red carpet or a music show, but a small, heartfelt gathering focused on mental health awareness. She appeared radiant but humble, dressed simply, her smile a little softer but stronger. And right there in the front row was Freen, cheering quietly, capturing moments with her phone, and smiling like a proud guardian. When Becky took the microphone that evening, she paused for a moment before speaking. Her voice was calm but emotional. "I used to think showing emotion meant weakness," she said softly. "But now I know it's one of the strongest things you can do. I broke down once, but someone reminded me that it's okay to feel, and that even in your lowest moment, you can rise again." She didn't say Freen's name. She didn't have to. The audience already knew. That night became a new symbol for the pair, not a breakdown, but of recovery. The emotional Live TB moment that once shocked fans had now transformed into a message of hope for others struggling behind their own masks. Messages poured in from fans worldwide, letters, artwork, even personal confessions. People shared how Freen and Becky's bond gave them courage to reach out for help, to talk about their emotions, to be kind to themselves. What was once a painful memory had become a movement of empathy. And while their professional schedules slowly picked up again, something about their dynamic changed forever. During interviews, Freen became more protective, not in a controlling way, but in a quietly attentive one. She would glance toward Becky before answering certain questions, giving her space to speak or step in when needed. Becky, on the other hand, began opening up more. Her once guarded demeanor softened, her laughter returned, and her confidence began to shine again. She often credited that growth to the people around her, but fans knew exactly who she meant when she said, "I'm lucky to have someone who sees the real me." Then came the moment fans had been waiting for, their reunion performance. Months after the Live TV incident, Freen and Becky were invited to perform together again at a major award ceremony. There was tension in the air, not because fans doubted them, but because everyone knew how emotionally charged this moment would be. As the lights dimmed and the first notes of their song played, the crowd held its breath. Becky walked on stage first, poised and radiant. Moments later, Freen joined her, confident, calm, her gaze fixed on Becky. When their voices blended, it was pure magic. No hesitation, no fear, only connection. And then, halfway through the song, something happened. Becky reached for Freen's hand. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. She simply reached out, and Freen, smiling softly, took it without missing a beat. The entire arena erupted. Fans screamed, some cried, and cameras flashed nonstop. But in that split second, it wasn't about performance. It was about reassurance, the same comfort that Freen had once given Becky in silence, now shared with the whole world. After the performance, backstage cameras caught a brief, heartwarming exchange. Freen hugged Becky tightly and whispered, "You did it." Becky smiled, replying softly, "We did it." That clip alone garnered millions of views overnight. Fans called it the hug that healed the world. From that moment on, Freen and Becky's relationship became the gold standard of authentic partnership in the industry. They weren't just co-stars, they were sisters in spirit, allies in healing, and proof that fame doesn't have to break you if you have someone who helps you stand. Even during solo interviews, both continued to speak about each other with unmatched affection. Freen once said, "Sometimes you don't need grand gestures to show love. Just showing up again and again is enough." Becky added in another program, "She's my safe space. Everyone needs a Freen in their life." As the years moved forward, that unforgettable Live TV moment became part of their legacy, replayed countless times by fans who saw it not as a scandal, but as a symbol of true care and empathy. And while both stars continued to achieve incredible success individually, their connection never faded. Every project they took, every stage they shared, carried a subtle trace of that night, a gentle reminder that strength can be found in the most vulnerable places. Years later, in a quiet interview, Becky was asked what that Live TV breakdown meant to her now, after everything that had followed. She smiled and said, "That night changed me. It broke something, but it also built something. I learned that the world can be kind, that people can forgive, and that love, in all its forms, can save you. And when the interviewer asked about Freen, her smile grew wider. She's my forever person, Becky said. Not in a fairy tale way, but in the real way. The kind where someone sees your worst and still stays. Freen, when asked the same question months later, gave an equally heartfelt response. She didn't need to say anything that night, she said quietly. I just knew. Because when you truly care about someone, you feel their pain as your own. Her voice cracked slightly before she added, and I'd do it all over again. To this day, fans still talk about that live TV moment as one of the most genuine displays of emotion ever seen in the industry. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Because two young women showed the world that even under bright lights and public scrutiny, humanity still shines through. And so, what began as an emotional breakdown became a love story, not romantic, but deeply human. A story about being seen, about showing up, and about reminding the world that kindness is the most beautiful thing anyone can give. In every new appearance, every smile they share, every look exchanged between Freen and Becky, fans see it, that quiet, unbreakable bond that grew out of one unforgettable night. It wasn't planned. It wasn't perfect. But it was true. And that truth, that love, that care, continues to inspire people all over the world. Because in the end, the story of Freen and Becky is a story about all of us, about finding light when the cameras fade, and about holding on to the people who make us feel seen.